Thanks very much.
I felt like you were really enjoying that. I think you could tell just sitting here watching you play that how sort of into that you were, which was great to sort of see and hear, and I think it really came through with what we heard too.
Cheers, thank you.
So Chris had a few questions lined up for things.
Well, just moving aside from your music for a moment.
Okay.
I believe that you also have a love and interest of some sci-fi type things.
I have, yes.
And I'm dying to hear about that.
We were talking about Doctor Who
yes.
Briefly before, weren't we? We're going to lose half our listeners at this point, you realise?
Oh no, I think it's more loved than people might believe.
I'm sure that's not the case, because I was interested when I was looking at the background of your music and things, that there was also and you say that you work full time, but there's also a lot of other things that you get involved in as well. What is this thing with Doctor Who at
Jack
the
of all
moment?
trades, master of none, I think. Well, I was a big fan of Doctor Who as a kid, and I used to be in a band with a drummer who was a huge fan, and he had all like the DVDs and stuff, and I thought, it'd be really cool to like go back and watch some classic ones. And that kind of snowballed into writing a book about where I pretty much reviewed every episode ever, which took like 4 years, I think, to do. So,
my goodness.
I was single at the time, just to say, if you couldn't tell. Yeah.
So, is that a published book then?
Sort of, yeah. It's on Lulu.com, which is kind of like a self-publishing one where you kind of write it on Word, and then I mean, one of the reasons why I did it as well as being a complete nerd was because I was trying to have a go at writing, and I thought a good way of doing it was to do something that you could do a little bit on every night, so you're kind of learning how to do it. And I thought something that's episodic like that, where you're just reviewing a different story, you can do a little bit each day and kind of gradually get used to writing. So it was more to do with that, really.
But also the experts would always say write about what you know, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And so the most passion and sort of writing skill is going to come about from something that you've got an understanding of, I guess. Yeah. I'd love to sort of write fiction and things like that, but I don't really have the skill to do it. So I eventually would like to learn how to do that. And what about the music of Doctor Who?
Yeah,
because that's another whole thing aside from the show, isn't it? I mean, they have like a proms style concert every year, don't they?
They do, yeah. I
Showcasing
didn't see it this year, but yeah,
the series of the year. And if
I
you're
think
not
just
a Doctor Who fan, you wouldn't realise that it's all very themed. Around each character has its own sort of theme,
that's right.
Isn't it?
Certainly, since it started again in like 2005, it's had with Rose and everything. There's definitely a theme for each. I think the theme itself is just iconic, really, isn't it? It was so groundbreaking at the time, with like the radiophonic workshop and stuff, where they were using sort of like tape loops and all sorts of things, which was probably quite influential on the Beatles and their experiments and things like that. So.
Has any of that influenced your writing as a singer-songwriter?
I don't know, really. I don't think the sci-fi comes into it that much. It's quite a science fiction looking cover, I think, my album cover, but I can't take any sort of credit for that. That's my sister took the pictures. Where she's kind of dancing with a camera around a fairground, so it's got all these kind of electric things. Which is pretty
it's on
cool.
An extra long exposure.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I don't know much about photography, but I just she does some great photos, so thought I'd nick some. It's she can't say no as my sister, can she?
Yeah, very good. Well, it's an interesting cover, and it's good to keep it so that there's like, I think throughout the album there's a lot of people that you know that have sort of worked with you alongside that, and so to keep that within that theme, I think is really great.
What's your favourite Doctor? I need to ask this at this point.
Probably David Tennant.
All right, okay, cool. So
from the modern day Doctor Who, I was brought up in the days of Tom Baker.
Yeah.
And to me, the Doctor was Tom Baker.
Yeah.
So, but when I thought Chris Eccleston did an outstanding job of reviving the show, but And I thought when he resigned that it was going to be rubbish.
Yeah.
And then David Tennant just knocked the ball out the park, didn't he?
He did like 5 years worth of really sort of diverse stories as well. So yeah, he definitely brought out lots of sides to the character.
And I know people like Kirsty think this is very geeky, and maybe it is.
I never said that.
Maybe it is, but I do really believe that there are millions of people who fall in love with these characters, and it's one of the BBC's biggest ever exports.
I think it comes really from, well, there's two reasons. It's one because it's quite a family show, and the Doctor kind of symbolises different parts of the family, I think, because he's got that inquisitive child. He's sort of quite authoritative like the adults as well, but he's also got that sort of quirkiness like the sort of student sort of fraternity as well. So he appeals to a lot of people like that. But I think he's a great role model as well, because he's one of the few action heroes that doesn't use violence. He uses his brain to solve things rather than sort of going in with, you know, a lightsaber or whatever. Although I do love Star Wars as well. But
I've never quite got my head around Star Wars.
Yeah.
But also there's a moral to pretty much
it's very
everything
moral,
that happens in Doctor Who, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's a wonderful way to sort of conclude that discussion.
Let's conclude that discussion.
So now we've got a bit of community action, and we're going to be hearing more from Tim right after this.